Welcome to the Nick, Dick, and Paul show. I'm Nick Bilton. I feel like when we do these intros, it's like when you play the game of Werewolf and you're like, I'm a villager. I'm Nick Bilton, a writer extraordinaire.
I'm Dick Costolo, innkeeper.
Are you a villager?
Oh, that's really handy. Paul Kedrosky, chaotic good, I've decided.
Mm-hmm. We have a very, very special episode today because we are going to go over two things that kind of are related in some respects. The first of which is why an older world is a more peaceful world, why old countries don't fight each other, which I'm very excited to discuss. And we are also going to talk about why reasoning explains the world that we live in today.
Motivated reasoning.
Motivated reasoning.
Yeah, reasoning explains sweet F all.
Reasoning stopped explaining things several years ago.
Let's just jump in. Paul, you have something you wanted to share.
I do?
Yeah, you're leading the show today, my friend. I'm just napping.
The data is actually impressive on the aging countries with older populations don't go to war.
I just have one quick question before you get to this data. Is there a reason that you had your PaulKedrosky.com embedded in the graph? Did you want us to advertise about that?
No, that's from my paid service, which you can subscribe to.
Oh, got it.
Thanks for the promo.
Yeah, no problem.
So this was just something that came up in a conversation with some hedge fund guys I was talking to. We were talking about how the argument that people make is the U.S. is heading towards, and there's a whole bunch of stuff out there, but the U.S. is heading for kind of a crack up, or it already is in a kind of crack up, and then crack ups inevitably end in civil war because this is how countries resolve them. Countries who can't resolve things through political and peaceful means go to war. And I was saying, I think it's wild, regardless of how you feel about where the U.S. is at, that it feels really unlikely, just for demographic reasons, that this would happen in the U.S. And these guys were all arguing, no, it's inevitable. This is what's going to happen. So that's when I went back and I looked at 200 years of data and said, yeah, it just doesn't happen. The median age, turn it the other way around. When the U.S., and I'll pose it as a question, how old was the mean age in the U.S. when the U.S. had during the Civil War?
27.
20-something.
Yeah.
27?
19.
19.
It was
wow.
Freaking crazy.
Crazy.
I had no idea the U.S.
What
was
is it today?
39. 39. And so the thing so if you go back and you start looking at all these countries, you look at civil wars and you look at all these sort of
It makes sense because if you're a 19-year-old guy, you're like, I really want to hit that person across from me.
I'm pissed off.
And when you're like my age, you're like, I really want soup.
Or if I hit them, I'm worried I may have to have small bone injuries or something.
I really want soup.
It's, by the way, with the same vigor.
So I'm just as passionate about the soup as I was about hitting someone. But this idea that there's a crazy age factor associated with this stuff, I think, for me anyways, it was startling. I didn't realize how young the U.S. was during the Civil War, like in terms of mean age, not just young as a country, but young in terms of the mean age. And then if you start looking across all these conflicts, it turns out to fairly universally be true that for the most part, the mean age is under 30. That countries where as people get older, the likelihood of there being some kind of military breakdown inside really not that you might not be in a war in another country. Like the Second World War, the U.S. was obviously much older. It was like 28 or 30.
Yeah, we got pulled into it.
But they got pulled into it, right? This wasn't...
I'd like to have soup, but I got to go hit this guy.
I got to go hit a guy. I got to go somewhere else. I don't know, but I found that just completely startling.
No, it's totally fascinating. Question.
It has profound implications for what's going on right now.
Right.
I mean...
in the U.S.
And everywhere. So think about... the thing that immediately jumped out at me when you sent around that graph was, I say this kind of half-jokingly, but China kind of has to attack Taiwan now.
No, there's a good example.
Right? Like every month that goes by, they're closer to having 500 million people over the age of 60.
Mm-hmm. One of the fastest
aging... They want dumplings and soup.
Ouch.
I don't know. All right, look.
It's one of the fastest. China is one of the fastest aging societies on earth, and
But
it's
hold
exactly
on.
that point.
Can I just back up a second? Okay, so Russia, Ukraine. I
Yeah.
don't know what the numbers are. Do you know
41.
the number? 41. Okay.
Ukraine is the most interesting exception to the rule because Ukraine was the oldest country in the last 100 years to have a civil conflict. The second oldest was Russia. And the U.S. is obviously at 39, but currently not at war with themselves, or at least not so you can tell.
So when you factor in technology, drone warfare, things like that, which you could do while you're eating soup, right?
Right.
Doesn't that change the whole theory?
No, but it goes back to the willingness to have the entire the willingness to get into a civil war. It's not just the tools via which you conduct the war. You could argue that the tools make it a little bit more likely that you would have it with increasing age, but it's also there has to be this societal feeling, back to Dick's point, that there's a bunch of 19-year-olds kind of mobbing about during the time of the Civil War and saying, "Screw it, I got nothing else to do. Let's take on the South," right? And that's a huge factor. So it's not just the means by which you conduct the war.
Are you just referring to the Civil War in the way Southern people would as the War of Northern Aggression?
That's true, actually.
Wow.
No, it's not that at all.
Okay. Okay. However, so maybe the Russia-Ukraine, Putin's eyes on Ukraine isn't there also this sort of, before it's too late, I'm on my way out, the declining power, my last grasp at, you would think that would drive some of this. I mean, it certainly seems to be what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, this sort of last gasp at empire on my way out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think that. It's not very common.
Yeah, okay.
So you don't see it.
It doesn't show up in the data.
Doesn't show up in the data. So it's not that it never happens. I mean, this isn't laws of physics, but it doesn't show up. So you would expect it there. You might expect it like with Turkey or somewhere else where you've
Russia.
got Yeah, so you see these exceptions.
We just talked about Russia. We just said Russia.
Oh, I know.
Where were you the last 5 minutes? Literally the whole last 5 minutes was about Russia.
Focus in, my friend.
Sorry.
So
Russia.
So you might. But it's a good question, though. I don't know. Maybe I don't know whether or not technology will change it very much. I mean, I suppose you could have argued that technology would have changed it at any point with any new technology we had for warfare. Like, why not launch more nuclear weapons after World War II? Because we're young, we got bombs.
But also, I think the technology aspect of it is that you used to be able to kill a soldier with a pitchfork, and now you can't because of technology. So so there's probably the factor that in Syria, in Russia, places like that, there is a large number of the population who I'm sure would love to create a civil war. America too, a civil war that would lead to change that they believe is the just direction of their country, but they can't because the militarization of the police and the military and the dictatorships within those countries make it completely impossible.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. But back to the earlier point, I think you also just can't get a groundswell of support for it because people are busy eating soup or whatever they're doing.
So
with an aging population.
Here's the question: is it predictive? So, for example, in sub-Saharan Africa, you have very young populations.
Yeah.
Tanzania, Dar es Salaam is predicted to grow by leaps and bounds in the next 10 years. Mali, Niger, their average age there is Civil War U.S. style, like in the late teens. Is it like? Did the data say,
The Arab Spring is kind of the answer to that.
Guess what's coming?
That's why the Arab Spring happened. You had all these young populations.
Yes,
the Arab Spring was not going to happen in the four corners of the U.S., right? I mean, with the older population, it had to happen, I'd argue, in a place like that, in places like that, where the mean age was, ridiculously young.
Yeah,
and
it would be great. It would be great if this was all true until the average population age became 80, and that was like once it hits 80, it's all out war.
This is the thing
watch.
This is the thing that's happened recently in Iran. It's the youth bulge
It's
they
the
call
youth
it,
bulge,
and it's the
It's the what?
Youth
bulge.
I don't know the term.
They've got kind of a mini.
I mean, I know one of the terms.
Youth.
They got like a mini baby boom going on.
Yeah, and then you have, and they're all disproportionately. They don't have jobs. They don't have a future. They don't have, and so they go into the street and they don't want soup. They want change.
They want change in regimes.
Yeah.
And that was the story of the Arab Spring, but it's also been the story, I think, in Iran as well.
Yeah.
And it's this, again, driven by this young cohort. Like I saw the statistic today, I think I sent it around, but I'll just pose it as a quiz question. What percentage of babies born this year will be born in Africa plus Asia? Did you see that? I said it?
60.
Way higher.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
What's the number?
86.
86%?
86% of babies worldwide this year will be born in Africa and Asia. It gets crazy. And again, to trace that forward, what does that mean? It means that the places that aren't Africa and Asia are aging really fast, right? Because they're not having as many young people. And so as a result, those will be the most peaceful places to this way of thinking. And the places that are having all these babies is going to be will be the places to watch with respect to
But then the most peaceful places can use technology to kill the other places.
I like how you always bring it back to drones.
It could be, yeah. You have this weird drone obsession.
Well, you know what it is. I got into watching.
Oh boy, here it comes.
I shouldn't even say this out loud, but I will.
Soylent Green.
No, I got into watching the Ukrainians kill the Russians on the drones. It's a fascinating psychological, I would say experiment, but it didn't really turn into an experiment. It was just murder, but killing. But it's fascinating to see how I watched. I think it was a documentary. I think Vice did it. It was like a 40-minute documentary where they went with the guys making the drones and flying them, and like they're just sitting there smoking cigarettes, and it's almost like they're playing a video game. But it was a really fascinating psychological thing to see, how they're
this kind of remote control.
There's remote control weaponry, and a couple of the guys were young, and a couple of them should have been eating soup.
So what your argument is like the residents of the villages in Florida are going to be sending out drones?
Maybe. You never know.
Just to take the rest of us on. So the idea that the places that aren't in that 86%, which is to say North America, East Asia, Australia, and so on, those places you would expect are going to become even more peaceful. So in a weird way, what's happening right now, this is what I was arguing the other day, it's kind of like a death rattle. It's like people seeing what's coming, that this is my last chance to really break stuff, right? Like with the Beastie Boys. And I want to break stuff now because I know we won't be able to. And I don't think, obviously, it's incoherent. Like people don't know that, but I think they can sense it.
I mean, you definitely get the feeling, and again, going back to something we were talking about earlier with the aging populations of Japan and Korea. Like there's no, in the U.S. we're going to bomb Iran, and there's all this sort of strife. You don't get the sense that Japan and South Korea feel like, man, let's call it a day. Let's wrap this up.
I'm checking out right now.
War. What are you talking about? Seriously, right? I mean, you don't get any.
No. You don't know.
You don't hear Japan saying we're going to increase our defense spending this year.
But turning that around, like the mean age of Japanese during the period up to Pearl Harbor was like 21, 20. Right. Whereas now they're one of the oldest societies on Earth. So you start looking at it in those terms. It's not particularly surprising that they were willing to sign on to this open-ended military campaign.
And so, what about countries where the immigrant population is young and
that's a great question.
Non-immigrant population is older?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you'd have to. I haven't seen data on it. Be interesting whether or not there's the same level of national cohesion. Like I want to do this.
Probably not the same level of national cohesion, and maybe it sort of explains. I mean, it does. It certainly explains the rise of far right parties in places like France and the UK and nationalism, et cetera.
Yeah.
Well, where does China fit into all this? Because China's got 500 million.
Were you listening to the first half of this podcast?
I was, but it
feels like you were in another room.
I was.
When I talk, I want you to
hold
listen.
on a second.
I'm begging you.
You said the joke about Taiwan. I got it.
No, it wasn't a joke. I said there's going to be. I said the number. 500 million people.
Let me finish the question. Yes. So we said the 500 million people, but they are on. There's the theory that they are the next superpower, right? But to be a superpower, you have to be dominant in a global conflict. So how does that play out? That's my question. That's a different question than your question.
No, it's the same point Dick was making. It has to happen now or never.
No, but that's not going to happen now.
Well,
so it's going to.
So then the answer is never.
So then they don't become the next superpower.
No.
Who
knows? But
it's
point
be
being
Africa?
though that
Mali.
No, it's much more likely to be some constellation of African countries than it is to be China.
Really?
Yo, absolutely. For this.
Fascinating.
500 million people who are going to be over the age of 60.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. They're not going to have the same. So this is the chance, right? This is why. And not only that, I mean, the demographics of the country. So I think I saw this the other day that there were more males aborted in China during the one-child policy than the current population of the United States.
Yeah, that's right.
That's crazy.
So think through that. So they've consciously conducted not just an experiment that made the country older, but they also obviously skewed it with respect to the gender breakdown. And so both of those together mean that from the standpoint of thinking about an older world as a safer world, that they pretty much did their chances in. It kind of had to happen like Tuesday, right?
On the topic of let's go to the U.S. and Iran now. U.S.'s older population. You potentially, trying to steer clear of politics, could argue that you have an administration that likes to help out its people who praise it and and do their bidding. How do you feel? Just talk about that. How does the potential U.S.-Iran conflict feels like inevitable? The U.S. feels like we're attacking Iran.
It feels like we are, but the question is with what severity? Is it a?
I love that this podcast will probably air after we attack Iran, and they'll be like, "Is he a little slow?" I don't know about you guys. I think those missiles that we saw on TV, that feels like an attack to me.
We are watching the headlines. Did you see all of that? Yeah. What are we going to say? Sorry.
The question is to what's the severity? Is it just drop a couple of bombs, or is it like a full scale invasion?
Wow, my and this goes back to the Venezuelan adventure. Was that it just feels to me
like Venezuelan adventure?
Yeah,
I love
whatever
that.
it was.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. But there's no appetite in the U.S. for, and I hate this expression, but to have whatever they call it, boots on the ground. To have people in the country. Perfectly happy to
boots on the ground.
What was the old line that was during the Obama administration where they said I'm sending expensive bombs to hit camels in the ass? Or
it was
like
Colin Powell said I don't want to send a $3 million bomb to blow up a $12 tent, or something like that.
Something like that. And and of course, right now the appetite is completely turned around. That's exactly what we want to do because it feels like we did a thing, but we didn't put American lives at risk by putting them on the ground in these countries. So, in answer to your question, that feels like the form it'll take because you can declare victory and not have anybody on the ground worrying about how are you going to protect them or anything else. I mean, I don't know what you think, but that'd be my guess.
I think that I feel like this administration likes to do things where they get to be tough guy and don't have to make any sacrifices. So that will argue for bombing Iran and doing whatever else they have to do and doing what you just said, using a $3 million bomb to blow up a $12 tent, and we'll go, we did it, and now they're no longer able to go harm people.
Yeah,
and then they'll leave.
Yeah, but then they'll go harm people.
Yeah.
Well, but to that point, though, that because Iran is relatively young and it's a younger mean age than Venezuela, for example, the likelihood of a stable, let's say there's a regime change in Iran, the likelihood of it being stable is even lower than the likelihood of it being stable in Venezuela for exactly this reason, that there is a very young population. There is this kind of youth bulge going through. And so the likelihood of them saying, yeah, I'm cool with all of this. This is good.
Yeah, the data do really say that young countries fight. Yeah, and want to fight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's almost predictive.
It's such a strong effect, especially if their mean age is under 30, which is the case with respect to Iran, for example. And so the likelihood, you can kind of game that out and think like, okay, fine, something happens, and for whatever reason there's regime change, and it's like it's not going to be it's not
going to be like, hey, it's Phil, like finally, like the Shah's grandson or whoever the heck that isn't coming back.
Yeah, no,
and to a peaceful welcome ceremony with duck à l'orange.
or the Iranian equivalent.
Wait, so what do you guys? How do you guys think?
The classic Persian dish.
How do you?
I've had that in restaurants.
How do you guys think Iran plays out?
Well, exactly like that. I think it's some kind of strategic offensive like that, where you've got a bunch of expensive missiles sent into a faraway place. You don't have any people. I still struggle to believe that any of this will cause a regime change.
Yeah,
which is
I agree.
I agree with that. I'm sure he being our president is being informed that this isn't how you affect regime change, and I'm sure also that he doesn't want to hear that.
But I also think it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just it's
No,
public
it doesn't matter.
relations.
it doesn't matter.
It's the symbolism and the action that
It's
matters.
I get to say I did it, and
But I think, like, from our standpoint, what's interesting is thinking about it, like, why might this be different than Venezuela? And one of the reasons why is because of this reason we're talking about, this demographic reason, that it's the age pyramid in the country matters immensely in terms of the likelihood of it being a relatively civil place afterwards and looking for more stability, or if they're unstable and they say, you know what, this is a good excuse to go attack each other and we'll form into like, what was it, Rwanda, where after the French left and all of a sudden you had this sort of genocidal impulse and three different, the various tribes in Rwanda that were essentially trying to exterminate each other. It should surprise you zero if something like that were to happen, not just because it's a tribal population, but because it's a very young population like Rwanda was back in that same period.
should we move on to our second topic after
Well, I think
this
that
fun?
the interesting thing about the Iran situation is, I mean, we've sort of danced around this, but it could easily be the case that people will find this sort of a crazy thing to say, but and it's not true for the Iranians themselves, but maybe it's true for us. You could easily find yourself in a situation where you're like, man, I wish that Ayatollah guy was back in there and things were sort of calmed down, because it could get
it could get so much worse.
Yeah, it could get just certainly going to be a lot worse internally, but that could also, as we already know, when things are troublesome in Iran and Iraq, things are troublesome everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good point. It could be a lot worse.
But for the people who live there and don't live in a democracy,
like again,
it's different.
When things aren't going well over there, things aren't going well everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it fascinating how much of war these days is a public relations ploy. Like when Israel and Iran were bombing each other, they would give each other a call and be like, "Hey, we just sent one over. It's going to hit you here." And we're it was like there's this discourse that it's like, well, can we have the last word, or is it you? And it really has become this very fascinating in the age of media and the internet and
in the age of remote control warfare. I mean, you can do that. If I don't have to put troops on the ground, I can do all kinds of signaling and say, just that thing, those bright lights, not constellations. Those are incoming cruise missiles, right? And you can do that, but you can't do that. Once you start putting people on the ground and saying, we actually want to drive a regime change and a new administration, then none of that works. You can't signal anything.
Have we talked? I don't think we've talked about the future of war. Right? Have we? About drone warfare?
Drones.
Sorry. No, but it's like somebody was telling me the other day, I was talking to someone about this who works in defense, and they were saying that the future, it does become machine versus machine.
Oh, of course.
Right? And then it's not who has the most machines left at the end, it's who has taken out the leadership. And that is what happened in Venezuela, essentially. We went in there, we got rid of there was a regime change, and now we're
really.
What's that?
Not really.
Yes, but there was one that was more sympathetic to
more like a mailing address change.
Yeah, more like
No forwarding address.
You now have to change your Christmas card to Mrs. President.
Yes. But the future of this, and it's fascinating when you start to think about what you're talking about in this data.
Not that I send Christmas cards to Venezuela. Just want to be clear about that.
Just want to be clear. Not yet.
Right.
Contrary to public reports.
Just how it all plays out when there are no quote unquote boots on the ground.
But you're seeing that right now. There's this ongoing fight between the U.S. Defense Department and Anthropic. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes.
This
is actually worth mentioning.
Right. So there's the future of war playing out in a way that's different from the usual idea that we're going to be sending in autonomous drones and doing this.
Can you talk about that?
So it turns out that Anthropic, one of the large language model, frontier model companies, AI companies.
You don't have to go that far back. We know who Anthropic is.
When a man and a woman love each other very much. Too far?
What happens?
All right. Okay.
They have a large language model. So the Defense Department is hugely reliant on Anthropic. Right. Yep. We're not clear on exactly what they're using it for. It could be in the context of Palantir. It could be in a lot of different contexts. But the bottom line is, it's all over inside the Defense Department. And Anthropic, as what do they call themselves? A public interest corporation or something like this. They have said we don't want to be used for these purposes, but it's too late. It's
Where these purposes are, you can't use our technology to kill without a human in the mix.
Yep.
Like it can't just be used to have autonomous.
Yep. But they're okay with it being used to kill with a human.
They've said well, you can't use our technology for these are the guardrails. You can't use our technology
has
for
to be
this.
a human in the loop.
Has to be a human in the loop, and there are several other things.
Yeah.
And go ahead. And the Department of Defense.
And the Department of Defense has said, no, you need to remove all guardrails and restrictions. And that's the way because we're using it. And if you don't do that, then we'll declare you a dangerous threat, and which is kind of perverse because in a sense they're trying to prevent a threat by preventing that from happening. But nevertheless, that's the club that the Defense Department's using to say you need to remove the guardrails and allow us to use it in whatever way we see fit. And they've also gone out and talked to OpenAI and talked to Grok and having conversations with those folks, and it sounds like Grok's already.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. I'm good with that.
But didn't they just come to a deal with Grok?
Yeah, they just did.
Yeah.
Recently did.
And so
they didn't have a problem with the whole guardrail thing.
And so they're no longer going to use Anthropic.
No, because this is the thing, and what they're hinting at is that it's much more. And that's the part I found most interesting was how extensively used. The idea that it's so extensively used that the Defense Department officials who were quoted, unnamed officials, were quoted saying that it would be very difficult to remove it. And I thought, you know what? That's already happened inside of the Defense Department. Not an early adopter of technology historically. Mm-hmm. It's so extensively adopted AI right now that the idea of doing a rip and replace and saying I'm going to put in something else tells you a bunch of things. The most important one, I think, is that AI is really good at war.
Yeah,
that they've adopted it so quickly, right up there with coding.
In what way do you think it's good at war?
I don't know. That's the thing that I found interesting. I genuinely don't know.
I mean, you can
killing.
You can look at
look at battlefield reports.
Look at any of the battlefield reports out of Ukraine, et cetera. You were talking about this earlier.
The drones.
It's remote. These are all remote control.
I got to say drone again.
You got to say drone again. It's still remote control. And then the ability to use it without humans in the loop will be like,
huge.
Great, we can kill people from a long way away and the computer will figure out the computer will, remember the old we'll do whatever and let God sort it out. It's like we'll point the camera at it and let the computer sort it out and figure out who to shoot and who not to shoot.
But just the idea that we're already at that point, I would never have guessed that. Mm-hmm. I would never have guessed that Anthropic was so widely, or any large language model was so widely used in the Defense Department that if you said, no, you have to change to this one, that they'd say no. I would have thought they'd say, whatever. We just use it to summarize memos. So we'll change. It'll be fine. But it's not. It's clearly got an operational role. And there's even been, I saw a report recently that it was extensively used in the Venezuelan attacks.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
And the idea that that's the case and it's so insinuated inside of the system is incredible to me. That's to your point about the future of war, though. I mean,
but what's to stop North Korea and others from using AIs to figure out how they can't. So are all ships rising?
Well, that's the argument, right? Is that all ships are rising and that these tiny, tiny differences between models at that point make a difference. It doesn't make a difference to software engineers that you get 97.2% on a test and someone else gets 94%. But maybe in defense, it does make a difference. Maybe those tiny differences matter.
Well,
I don't know.
The fact that it's all become kind of a commodity actually gives me hope that we won't kill ourselves with AI because the AIs will be able to stop the other AIs.
No, it's never going to happen.
You just think we're done?
Yeah.
How many times do you have to see the optimist view of things not come true before you stop with your hopeful nonsense?
Well, I just hope that was a moment. I was like, oh, maybe we'll be fine.
No. I don't think
there was silly Nick.
There was actually a report out the other day, speaking of technology for war, was showing how when you use large language models in the context of simulated nuclear warfare, they're like vastly more aggressive than humans.
Yeah, I saw that.
And zero compromises. There's none of this negotiation thing.
They esculate to nuclear war almost instantly.
Gone, right?
You're like, hey, can we? No, you're going to blow you up. I didn't even finish my question yet.
Pretty much, though. Which is
no, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's scary. But that's, again, seeing that it's already all over the Defense Department, with that in mind, I think is really important, and much more important in a lot of ways than what's going on with drones, honestly.
Once AI has the launch codes, it's gonna launch. It's gonna be like, what have we been waiting for?
Yeah, this is what we've been
This
waiting
is
for.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Finally.
Moltbot will figure out how to.
Yeah, but that's why I think like people miss. They look at things like the drones and these are really visible signs of how technology.
You were just totally going to diss me, weren't you?
Yeah. They look at that and they say it's like these are really visible signs. All of this stuff is under the hood. Like we've changed all the plumbing of war, and it's
fascinating.
right?
It's happened so quickly.
And it's happened so quickly, and you can't rip it out. The thought of ripping it out is people are like, yeah, I can't do that.
Right? I can't imagine.
I have one more. Old countries not going to war question, and that I don't know the answer to. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts about it.
I bet Nick does.
If you think about the extremes like Japan and China and aging populations in the U.S., you have to end up spending. We've talked about this before. You spend an inordinate amount of money on healthcare, and running deficits aside. It may be the case that older countries aren't peaceful because they're tired and want peace. They're peaceful because they're broke and they spent all their money. You're spending all your money, guns and butter, and instead it's guns and diapers.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point though. But like, look at Japan, right?
Yeah,
They've run structural deficits for like 30 years.
Yeah,
and it hasn't really mattered. But what it has mattered is that they haven't been able to build up a new military, even if they probably wanted to, because they're busy. They're broke, right?
Yeah.
They're busy. So yeah, countries that run they tend to have big deficits, and you can't use it for more, all the purposes you might like. No, it's probably true.
But there's also probably a question of if when a country is getting to the end of its life, and if that happens, and that they're like, fuck it. Like Israel has it's called the David Accord, I think, or something like that, where there's a system in place that if anything ever happens that could lead to the end of Israel, that they blow the whole fucking thing up. And
what movie did you watch?
I've read all the articles about it. It's fascinating. You should read about it. It's really fascinating. It's based on this old biblical story of the guy who made the building collapse and killed everyone who was going to kill him. And
I had no idea.
Yeah, and so I wonder if
Did you just make up a biblical story?
No,
You know the story about the guy who blows himself up.
Talk amongst yourselves while I figure this out.
I think you're remembering the movie Towering Inferno.
Yeah, that was a great movie, by the way.
All right.
I've tried to make people watch that all the time. It doesn't play as well now as it did.
Wait, hold on one second. I do actually want to find this. We're going to pause for 1 second.
Let's by all means stop the podcast so you can look up your biblical history.
Your reference.
I'm going to ask AI.
I think it's Ezekiel 4:16.
I think you're looking at I think the one you were looking for.
By the way, Ezekiel, great biblical name. Love this. One of my favorites.
Yeah, no, it's catchy.
Itself.
It's catchy. It's got the K sound. Very catchy.
Roll with it. I think what's the one? I think that you're looking for. What's the book? The Protocols of the Zion Protocols.
Yeah, you're conflating
I'm not.
fiction.
I'm telling you.
I think it's the anti-Semitic one that was so popular a few years ago.
There's not like people in Tel Aviv who are like in their apartments and the government comes through and goes, "Hold on, I got to run some explosives through here."
A little bit of cabling.
Oh, here you go. All right, there you go. All right,
please. The floor is yours.
Put it up on the screen.
Okay, this is okay.
You can't read to yourself on a podcast.
I'm not reading.
Quietly.
Let me come back. Let's start this over. Okay, should I start the whole thing over or just?
No, let's read the story.
So it's called the Samson option, and it is actually not a biblical term. It is a modern geopolitical doctrine that borrows from a biblical name, okay? And Israel has never admitted to it, but there are theories out there.
Oh, my God. Good Lord.
Daily Mail.
That it is not a religious doctrine of self-destruction. It is that if they are attacked and there is going to be an end to Israel, they will take the whole area out with them.
So you realize, I just want to make sure, you realize Samson wasn't a guy who had this big building and he blew it up, right?
No, I didn't say he blew it up.
Okay.
I said he pulled the. I've seen the picture. He pulled the towers, the held it up,
pillars,
and the pillars. Thank you. And the whole thing fell, and they killed them all.
I think we should have Bible study with Nick Bilton.
It's kind of reduced to like high
tomorrow. Deuteronomy
turns into high concept filmmaking.
I think it's a perfect segue into our next.
Why to believe things that aren't true?
Our next. So you read a book called False?
Yeah, it's just so I was reading this recently, and it was about how. Well, one of my favorite books on all this stuff is there's this book by Catherine Schultz, New Yorker writer from years ago.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah. Which is a book about why most things you think are true. But the important thing in it, from my standpoint, was this idea that how does it feel to believe something that's wrong? And the answer is, of course, it feels exactly like how it feels to believe that something's right until you find out you're wrong. Right. And so this is the thing why it's so comforting to feel like you're always being reassured that what you think about the world is actually true. And it turns out the world right now is really good at delivering you information that reinforces you in thinking, oh, this is like the algorithm's feeding me more of this. This must be a good sample of what's going on in the world. And so this book was about this idea of how this whole process feeds itself, and it feeds to this thing called motivated reasoning, which is the idea that you look for information that confirms what you already thought, because it makes you feel better about things, and disconfirming information is just like, yeah, I don't want any of that. And it's a really interesting problem, and it's a huge trap, and very easy to get stuck into, because it's easy than ever to find information that confirms anything you think about anything.
No, of course. I mean, look at the QAnon stuff. Those people who are like would go right down the rabbit hole and didn't go. It's not like they were asking themselves, let me go find some people that think this guy's crazy.
Yeah. It was more that if you thought they were crazy, they immediately rejected you. Of course. Because they have huge confirmation from the community, right. And so they wouldn't even begin to engage with you. But this idea, and so the reason why I got into it was I was giving a talk with some hedge fund guys the other day, and I was talking to this group about, someone stood up and said to me about this one topic, they said, what would prove you wrong, right? What would falsify your view? And I thought, it's a great question, because it's this idea of, are you open to being, disconfirmed, refuted, whatever word you want. And then it got me thinking that I think it's important across almost everything to have some idea of what would constitute something that would prove me wrong about something I think is true.
I totally agree with that. But you also notice that these days on social media, it's most of the dialogue, if you even want to use that word, most of the dialogue is less about truth-seeking and more about membership in the team. I mean, the name-calling is classic. I mean, the name-calling is never about truth-seeking. It's about those people are libtards or whatever. Seriously. I mean, I'm going to declare my position as part of this group. In what is ostensibly this person like claiming that you're wrong. They name call, they retweet someone who agrees with them. It just feels a lot less about seeking the right answer now, and more about like, I'm declaring my affiliation with this group and membership. And membership in the tribe is more important than the truth.
Yeah. Well, aren't you on a bunch of like political groups?
You said that in a way that made me feel like you didn't agree with me.
No, I totally agree.
You said, yeah.
I'm on a few.
No, this reminded me of Nick. Nick told me we were on a bunch of political chats, and didn't you say like you were? It was mostly just confirmation stuff. Like it's people being tribal is what.
It's all tribal. I mean, I don't participate in them because I just don't have the energy anymore. But I do watch and it's definitely. They're all tribal. They're all like.
But they're all signaling. Like,
well, what's fascinating actually is that there are certain people on. There's one like Hollywood group chat that I'm on, and there's half of the people on it are clearly full on Trumpers, and half of the people on it are the opposite. And they always send screenshots from social media, because I guess that's where grown-ups get their news these days. And they'll be like, "Can you believe this?" Or they'll say, "Is this true?" And it's like, and you're like, "What?" So they're being fed, and all that's if I ever jump in, it's to literally copy and paste a Google link and say like, "No, it's not true." All you have to do is look it up. But they're all constantly being fed these biases, and they are seeking them out and then trying to use them as weapons against the people that they.
And to show what Dick was saying, like to show I'm a member of the tribe.
I'm part of the member of the tribe.
I'm a member of the tribe.
Yeah.
This is precisely why like information campaigns or pointing people to links doesn't work. We assume the problem is ignorance, but it's not ignorance. It's I'm on the blue team.
Yep.
Yeah. You're on
all
the red
it does
team.
is it confirms.
Red team people are losers.
Yeah. and then the people that are on the blue team, when they see it, it just gives them one other thing to argue against, and then it just becomes, it becomes cyclical.
I was thinking about it earlier. I told you earlier that you should listen to this Jesse Armstrong, the Succession showrunner. He was on BBC show Desert Island Discs, where you talk a little bit about your life and so on, but in between each you pick songs. And so he was talking about how.
Wait a minute, what?
BBC?
This is a TV show?
Yeah, it's a radio show on BBC.
The radio shows on BBC are the best.
It's the best.
Like game
they
shows.
are the best. Yep.
Desert Island Discs is amazing.
What kind of music do people like? Did he pick? Did he anything good?
It was like
And
the,
is
the
it called
Pixies.
that because it's like, what if you were on a desert island? What music would you take?
Right. The idea is all the way through. You say you pick 4 songs that you would listen to on the desert island, and at the end of it all, you said, you can take 3 items with you to the desert island, and it has to be a book or something. No luxuries. A book or something else. Something else.
We should play that game.
It's really actually a tremendous show.
A book, a luxury, and
no,
what
not
else?
a luxury. It's a book and a something else. I forget what it was, but there's one other thing you can bring, and so
How can you not remember what the thing is? There's only 3 things.
I
listen to this show?
This is him. He's like the median age for people in 1912 living between the Mississippi border and was 12.2.
Yeah.
I can't remember the 3 fucking things.
And then you're like, did you see the movie The Sting? Yeah, it's Reverend and that other guy.
the blonde guy, whoever that is. So Armstrong talks about, I didn't realize that pre-screenwriter stuff, that he was an English major, and he we worked as an assistant to a UK politician, and he was talking about, like, he initially thought he would really love to work somehow in a speechwriter role or something inside a political office. And what put him off was he went to some meeting, some political convention, and he showed up in a yellow tie. He said, I went in a yellow tie and I immediately got shouted at by people who said, don't you realize that's I don't even know, a UK Lib Dem, something. It was whatever party he wasn't part of, they were shouting at him because he was wearing a color associated with them. And he's like, I still strongly believe in our doesn't matter, you're wearing the wrong color. And he's like, F this, I'm out. This is ridiculous. I feel like this is all just, it was, as for him, as he said, it was just a reminder of how unthoughtful and tribal it was. And I just thought it was really striking because, him coming to that realization that, and this was decades ago, 20 plus years ago, politics has been like this forever, right? I mean, what is it about, so my question is, what is it about politics that drives so much motivated reasoning?
I mean, the funny thing about all this is, and this is not an answer to your question, it's just a new topic I wanted to explore.
Yeah, sure.
What's
your favorite color?
The funny thing about all this is motivated reasoning, I don't know what the right analogy is, but when you're doing it, it's reasoning.
Oh, absolutely.
When I'm doing it, it's reasoning.
Yeah.
When you're doing it, it's motivated reasoning.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not dissimilar to the...
Well, that's the Catherine Schultz line. It feels fine.
It feels fine when I'm doing it. But you are obviously stupid,
irrational and stupid,
irrational and crazy.
Well,
it's not dissimilar to the old. We judge other people by their behaviors, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. Yeah, it's like, no, I'm reasoning.
Pure of heart. Right.
Pure of heart. I'm actually thinking through this and, quote, doing my own research.
And you're an idiot.
But what is it about politics, though?
I think it's that I think that we live in a time now where politics has become what we associate ourselves with every aspect.
But it's been
of
true
society.
forever, though, right?
No, but people used to, you look back at like in the 50s and 60s and 70s and neighbors didn't hate each other because someone voted for Nixon or what, it's become
even more tribal.
It's just become so tribal, and it's social media. Like at the end of the day, I really truly believe that's what has broken this. But it's also, what's fascinating is when you look at, I was reading some about.
By the way, this is precisely why Bitcoin works, because there's nothing underneath it. It's just a price. So when it falls, if you're a hodler or
maximalist,
Bitcoin maxi, you're like,
this is fine.
Great buying opportunity.
This doesn't refute anything I thought.
This doesn't refute anything I thought, and these people don't get it. And the weak hands are selling right now.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing under it to go.
And politics is a little like that.
Yeah, politics is like that.
But we are also come into things with this predisposition. If you look at the Innocence Project, most of the cases where they have overturned the cases were people who came in with a predisposition, and it didn't matter what the evidence showed, they were going to vote in a specific way.
Yeah.
And so,
well, sure. There's also the DA's sunk cost, right? I didn't spend 20 years prosecuting that case to see some 20-year-old jerk come in and show me new evidence.
But it used to be that a friend of mine used to argue that politics was like that, but other spaces were. And his example always was, you don't see motivated reasoning in finance because there's real truth. And I used to buy that, and I don't think it's as true anymore. Like, Bitcoin is an example.
Yeah, Bitcoin's an example.
Right, it's motivated reasoning starting to penetrate other areas where it used to be it was clear what was true and what was false. Like, what's the point of pretending a company is successful when it's not successful?
I mean, look at...
Well, you just described
I know.
every tech company on the planet.
But that's the thing. Right?
I don't know about that, but you could certainly use it to look at Tesla stock, right?
Tesla or something else, because what would prove you wrong about thinking that Tesla is the future, despite them having abandoned cars focused on robots and launching data centers?
What's fascinating is one of those.
In space.
Check out our earlier podcast on space data centers. What's fascinating is on one of those text threads that I just watch on is there is someone who is a staunch Tesla supporter, owns a lot of stock. And when the news came out
it's
recently,
funny that you just listen what you just said. They're a staunch Tesla supporter.
I know, it's crazy.
Like it's a political party.
No,
not a
but it is,
company.
that's right.
With
but it
earnings.
is a political party to him. And so when the recent earnings call, and they weren't selling any Cybertrucks and the sales were down in Europe and China and blah, 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 blah. He's like, I'm buying more because it's gonna be a robots company, and they're gonna have every robot in the world.
They don't have those nuisance cars around anymore.
It's a data company.
Actually, I have said this before. They should stop making cars completely, and then the stock could go way up.
Right, because it's just a hindrance now.
Yeah, it's holding them back.
Right. It's having to focus on cars is distracting them from the more important things like humanoid robots.
What is your theory?
I'm not kidding.
No, I actually think you're right.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
What if Bitcoin were actually used regularly for some purpose, and you could track how widely it was used or not? The price would, price would be correlated.
Yeah.
The price would collapse.
Right. No, not
when it's nothing but a price
or a promise or whatever.
or a promise.
Yeah.
Go up forever.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point.
The other thing with politics, thinking about it, is that everything has become political. Like, it used to be that politics.
We just said that.
No. But I know that. But what I'm saying is
I feel like you don't listen to me. I want to have a therapy session. I want to go to couples therapy with you. Here's what I want to do. I want to go to couples therapy. Just give me 1 second, please. I want to go to couples therapy with you and tell the therapist, I don't feel heard. Nick, he comes home. I tell him China
what do you mean you don't feel heard? You're on a podcast.
China has 500 million people over the age of 60. And then 6 minutes later, Nick goes, I'll tell you one interesting thing. China is about to have 500 million people over the age of 60. Like,
I have a different point I'm making.
You make me feel small.
It hurts my feelings. Yeah.
No, my point is, I was processing and thinking about the question that Paul answered earlier. And yes, it's all social media, blah, blah, blah. But
also, I don't like it when you drink.
Today in therapy. You're a different person. Go ahead.
I don't drink that much.
Wow.
It's only a bottle of wine a night, dear. Everything
is politics.
Is politics. The jacket you wear has endorsed one candidate over another. The TV show you watch feels a certain way about something. It's like every single solitary thing. Whereas before it was just – it's not like the implications of politics are bigger or smaller than they ever were since we've had a democracy. It's that politics have become a part of every single solitary thing you do. Like, drink a plastic water bottle. You're leaning a certain way. Support Tesla. You're leaning a certain way. Like, and it's become everything.
But why?
Because I mean, do you really want to say why?
Yeah, no, why? I would love to know the answer.
It's not uniquely true to the U.S. This is a global phenomenon. That's why I think the why question is interesting.
Yeah,
I think the reason is because there are certain people in power who the only way they know how to be in power is to have an enemy, and that they have made enemies out of everything, and so and that's where the divide comes. And so everything has to pick a side, or It's irrelevant.
So like I think that's true. I think the sociology argument is that we lack enemies, external enemies, because the Cold War ended.
Yes. Yep.
So you turn on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. The
Yeah.
tribes are a natural because I don't have someone else outside the country to hate. So I turn around and you become much more tribal.
And then immigration is a great vehicle for feeding that because those people don't look like me.
Yep.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Right.
So I've been thinking about this. China's going to have 500.
All right. Do I get to do the outro this time?
Do the outro.
Thanks once again. This was the Dick and Paul Show. Wait to see you again next time.